When people in town talked about Vincent Claiborne, they didn't call him wealthy or successful. They called him the Storm. He owned half the real estate in Brookhaven and had the other half under contract. His face was in the papers for his business deals, but his name spread faster for another reason. Nobody, and I mean nobody, could work for him without walking out in tears. Especially waitresses. At the downtown bistro he visited every weekday for lunch, the running joke was that the turnover rate for his table was faster than the coffee refill rate. He had a way of making you feel small with a single glance, like he could measure your worth in seconds and found you lacking. So when the new hire walked in, a young black woman named Tiana Brooks, barely 24, wearing a hand-me-down uniform and a smile that seemed too warm for this cold world, the other staff gave her the warning. "Claiborne comes in at 12:30 sharp," muttered Donna, the head server, as she refilled sugar caddies. "Don't mess up his order. Don't talk too much. Don't talk too little. Just don't." Tiana just smiled politely. Got it. But inside, her stomach knotted. She needed this job. After months of rejections, living on instant noodles, and scraping together rent for her one-bedroom apartment, she couldn't afford to fail. Not again. That first Tuesday, she saw him before he saw her. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a tailored charcoal suit, hair like midnight, and eyes sharp as glass. He walked in like the place was his living room, glancing over the tables as though he was surveying property he already owned. When he sat, Tiana approached with her notepad. "Good afternoon, sir. What can I get you started with today?" He didn't look at her. Not once. He kept scanning his phone, voice flat. "You're new. They didn't tell you my order?" Her hand tightened on the pen. "No, sir. But I'll be glad to." He sighed. Loudly. "Medium rare ribeye. No seasoning rub. Steamed asparagus, not grilled. Balsamic dressing on the side. Sparkling water, room temp. And tell the chef not to overcook the vegetables this time." He paused, his eyes finally flicking up at her, cold and appraising. "Think you can handle that?" There it was, that challenge in his tone. The same one that had sent the last waitress storming into the kitchen with tears streaming down her face. Tiana kept her smile steady. "I'll make sure it's just right." The first 3 minutes were fine. But when she brought his sparkling water, he tapped the glass with one finger. "This is cold." "Did I say cold?" Her cheeks heated, but she didn't snap back like she wanted to. "No, sir. I'll fix it." Back in the kitchen, the cooks exchanged knowing looks. "He's already on you," said Raoul, the line cook. "Happens to everyone." But Tiana wasn't ready to be everyone. She took a deep breath, brought him another glass at room temperature, and set it down without comment. He didn't thank her. He didn't smile. He just resumed scrolling his phone like she didn't exist. The rest of the lunch went the same, small critiques, long silences, the occasional glance that felt like judgment. When he left, he dropped a single dollar on the table for a tip. "That's it," Donna said when she came to check on her. "Most people don't last the week with him. He'll wear you down." But Tiana didn't quit. Over the next 2 weeks, the routine repeated. Every day, Vincent Claiborne arrived at exactly 12:30. Every day, he found something to correct: slightly overwarmed water, the asparagus cut too thick, the salad dressing poured a millimeter too high in the cup. And every day, Tiana responded the same way, calm, polite, and precise. She started noticing patterns. He didn't like idle chatter, but he wasn't entirely closed off. Sometimes he lingered on certain things, asking the chef where the beef came from, glancing out the window when the downtown clock tower chimed. And once, just once, she caught him smiling faintly at a toddler in a high chair 2 tables over. One rainy Thursday, he surprised her. After his usual list of modifications, he added, "And make sure the bread isn't stale like last time." Tiana tilted her head. "Sir, last time I checked the bread myself. It was fresh from the oven." For the first time, he looked directly at her without that distant, guarded glare. "You're sure about that?" "Yes, sir. I'm sure." Something in his expression shifted, not softer exactly, but curious. Like he wasn't used to someone holding their ground without raising their voice. She thought about that moment later, on the bus ride home, watching raindrops streak down the window. She remembered her mother's voice when she was a child, "Baby, you don't fight every storm. Sometimes you just stand in it until it passes." But the storm that was Vincent Claiborne didn't seem to be passing. And deep down, she had a feeling that his sharpness wasn't just cruelty, it was armor. Armor for something he didn't want the world to see. By the end of the third week, he said something she never expected. "You'll do," he told her, pushing his empty plate toward her. It wasn't praise, but in his language, it might as well have been. Tiana smiled, tucking her notepad into her apron. "I'm glad to hear that." But she didn't know that "you'll do" was just the beginning. Because the reason no waitress lasted with the rude millionaire wasn't just about bad manners. It was about what happened when someone stayed long enough to find out the truth. And Tiana Brooks was about to find out. The following Monday, Vincent didn't come in. By Tuesday, Donna was pacing near the register. "That's odd. He's never missed 2 days in a row." Tiana shrugged, though she felt the same curiosity gnawing at her. She'd gotten used to his routine, like a stubborn clock you didn't quite like but still noticed when it stopped ticking. On Wednesday, the door opened at 12:30 sharp, but this time Vincent didn't look the same. His usual polished suit had been replaced with a navy sweater, his hair slightly out of place. He didn't carry his phone in hand. Instead, he moved slower, as if the weight on his shoulders had doubled. When Tiana approached, she didn't give the usual greeting. "You okay, Mr. Claiborne?" He glanced up sharply. "Why? You just seem different today." He studied her for a beat, and for a second she thought he'd dismiss her like he always did. But instead he said, "Bring me a black coffee. No food today." It was strange. Vincent never skipped a meal. She brought him the coffee and noticed his hands, steady, but clasped too tightly around the cup. He didn't linger long that day. No complaints, no comments. Just a quiet "thank you" before he left. The next few days, the pattern continued. Vincent showed up, ordered only coffee, and left after 10 minutes. And every time, there was a heaviness in his eyes that made Tiana want to ask, but she didn't. Not yet. It wasn't until the following Thursday that she got her answer. She had just dropped off his coffee when a man in a rumpled jacket entered the bistro and walked straight to Vincent's table without waiting to be seated. The man looked tense, almost angry. "You're avoiding my calls," the man said, his voice low but sharp. "This isn't the place, Michael," Vincent replied evenly. Michael leaned closer, ignoring Tiana who was still standing nearby. "The doctor said it's time to start preparing, but you're just sitting here. Drinking coffee." Tiana froze. She didn't want to eavesdrop, but their voices were clear enough. Vincent's jaw tightened. "I told you. I'll handle it." Michael shook his head in frustration and walked out. When Vincent noticed Tiana still there, he gave her a look, not angry, but warning. Not a word. She nodded and stepped away. But the conversation lingered in her mind all shift. Preparing? Doctors? Was someone sick? That evening, as she wiped down the counter before closing, Vincent returned. No suit, no phone, just him, standing at the door like he wasn't sure why he'd come back. "You're still here," he said. "Just closing up," she replied. "Coffee?" He shook his head. "No. I just I owe you an apology. I've been, he stopped, searching for the right word. Difficult. That's one word for it, she said, a faint smile playing on her lips. Something in her tone made him huff out a small, almost reluctant laugh. My mother's in the hospital, he admitted finally. Cancer. Stage 4. She's all I have left. Tiana's chest tightened. I'm sorry. She raised me alone, he continued, his voice quieter now. Did everything she could to make sure I didn't end up, well, like me. He smirked bitterly. I thought I could fix it all with money. Turns out, there are some things you can't buy. Tiana hesitated, then said softly, sometimes, the only thing you can give someone is your time. And yourself. He didn't respond right away, but she saw the words land somewhere deep. From that night on, something shifted between them. Vincent still ordered with precision, still expected things exactly his way, but the sharpness had dulled. Occasionally, he'd ask about her day. Once, he even remembered her brother's name when she mentioned he was visiting. The other staff noticed. What's your secret? Donna whispered one afternoon. You're the only one who's lasted this long with him. Tiana just smiled. Maybe I stopped seeing him as the storm. But storms have a way of testing you, even when you think the skies are clearing. And the real test came 2 weeks later, when Vincent walked in, not for lunch, but with an offer that could change her life. Vincent entered the bistro that Friday afternoon wearing his usual suit, but there was an urgency in his step, like he was late for something important. He didn't sit at his regular table. Instead, he stopped right at the counter where Tiana was sorting receipts. Got a minute? He asked. She glanced toward Donna, who was watching from across the room with raised brows. Sure. He motioned toward the corner table, the one farthest from the other customers. When they sat, he didn't waste time. I have a job for you, he said. Tiana frowned. A job? I already have one. This isn't waitressing, he said. It's personal. My mother's coming home from the hospital tomorrow. She refuses professional caretakers, claims they hover too much. But she likes you. I mentioned you once, and she remembered. Remembered me? How? You brought her tea once when she came in with me. Said you were the only one who didn't treat her like porcelain. He leaned forward. I want you to help take care of her. Cook meals, keep her company, make sure she takes her medication. Tiana hesitated. Vincent. I'm not a nurse. I don't need a nurse. I need someone who'll show up. Every day. His gaze softened, but there was still that intensity beneath it. You'd be paid well. More than here. And you'd have a chance to make a real difference for her. The offer hung in the air. She thought about her rent, the thin cushion in her bank account, the constant anxiety of stretching every dollar. She thought about the way her schedule here left her bone-tired but still unable to save. But she also thought about Donna, the staff, and the steady rhythm of the bistro. And about crossing that invisible line. Stepping into Vincent's world, one that might swallow her whole if she wasn't careful. Why me? She finally asked. His answer was quiet but firm. Because you don't flinch. The next morning, she found herself standing in front of a 3-story brick townhouse on the east side of Brookhaven. Vincent met her at the door, dressed in casual slacks and a white shirt, looking less like the intimidating millionaire and more like a son who hadn't slept much. Inside, the place was immaculate but cold, no photographs on the walls, no knickknacks, just expensive furniture and clean lines. It didn't feel like a home, and she wondered if that was by design. Then she met Eleanor Claiborne. She was small, frail, with silver hair swept into a neat bun and eyes that still carried a spark of mischief. So you're the girl who tells my son when the bread's fresh, she said with a smile. Tiana laughed. That's me. In the days that followed, Tiana's role became more than just caretaker. She learned Eleanor liked her tea just shy of boiling, that she still read mystery novels late into the night, and that she refused to let illness steal her sense of humor. But she also saw the cracks in Vincent's armor up close. He hovered at the edges of the room when Eleanor coughed too hard. He snapped at delivery men who arrived late. He buried himself in work during the day, but at night, when he thought no one was looking, he'd sit by his mother's door, listening to make sure she was breathing. One evening, while Eleanor napped, Tiana found Vincent in the kitchen staring at an untouched plate of food. "You can't control this," she said gently. He didn't look up. "I can try. Trying doesn't mean shutting everyone out." He met her eyes then, and there was something raw there, fear, maybe, or grief he didn't want to name. "People leave," he said quietly. "Or they give up. I've learned not to expect much else." Tiana set the plate down in front of him. "I'm still here." It was a small moment, but she could feel it, the invisible line between employer and employee blurring, replaced by something more fragile, more human. And yet, she also knew storms don't vanish overnight. Sometimes they come back harder before they pass. That storm arrived sooner than she expected, and it came in the form of an argument that threatened to end everything. It started with something small. Eleanor had been having a good morning, reading in her chair by the window, sunlight spilling over her lap. Tiana was in the kitchen, preparing soup, when Vincent came home unexpectedly in the middle of the day. "What's this?" he asked, eyeing the simmering pot. "Chicken and vegetable. Your mom said she had a craving. She can't have too much sodium." His voice was sharper than it needed to be. "I know," Tiana replied, keeping her tone calm. "I made it low sodium. Fresh herbs for flavor." Vincent walked over, took the spoon from her, and tasted the broth. "Too much salt." She frowned. "It's literally one pinch." "One pinch too many," he cut in. Her jaw tightened. "Vincent, with all due respect, I'm here every day with her. I know what she can and can't handle. And I'm her son," he snapped, setting the spoon down hard. "Don't forget that." The word stung more than she expected. It wasn't just the tone. It was the way he said it, like she was disposable. Like she was just another employee who could be replaced. Eleanor's voice floated in from the living room. "Is everything all right in there?" Tiana forced a smile in her voice. "All good." Vincent waited until they were alone again before lowering his voice. "You're here because I trusted you. Don't make me regret it." She stared at him for a long moment, feeling a mix of anger and disappointment. "You don't get it, do you? Trust works both ways. You keep everyone at arm's length, and then you wonder why they leave." His expression darkened, but she didn't stick around to see his reply. She grabbed her coat and stepped outside, the cold air biting her cheeks. For the first time since she started, she didn't come back the next day. That night, she sat in her small apartment, wondering if she'd just thrown away the one job that could have kept her afloat. But it wasn't just about the job, it was about respect. And if Vincent couldn't give her that, no amount of money was worth it. On the third day, there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Vincent standing there, holding a brown paper bag that smelled like the bistro's chicken soup. "You were right," he said simply. She raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "About the salt. About me." He exhaled slowly. "I'm not good at this. At letting people help. I keep thinking if I control every detail, I can stop things from falling apart. But all it does is push people away." She leaned against the doorframe, crossing her arms. "Why are you here, Vincent?" "Because my mother asked where you were," he said, his voice softer now. "And I didn't have a good answer." For the first time, he looked unsure of himself, not the confident, untouchable millionaire, but a man afraid of losing one of the few people who stayed. Tiana stepped aside. "Come in." He handed her the bag. Peace offering. From the place you told me makes the best soup in town. She took it, feeling the warmth seep into her hands. So, are we starting over? His lips curved into the faintest smile. If you'll have me. The following week, she returned to the Claiborne townhouse. Eleanor greeted her with open arms, and Vincent, well, he still had his moments. But there was a change. He asked for her opinion more. He didn't nitpick every detail. And once, when he thought she wasn't looking, she caught him smiling while they both listened to Eleanor laugh over a book passage. It wasn't perfect. But storms don't have to be perfect to pass, they just have to move on. Still, there was one more moment coming. One that would show exactly how much Vincent had changed, and it would happen when Eleanor's health took a sudden turn. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Tiana was in the kitchen making Eleanor's favorite oatmeal cookies when she heard a sharp crash from the living room. She dropped the mixing spoon and rushed out. Eleanor was slumped in her chair, her teacup shattered on the floor, her breathing shallow. Eleanor. Tiana knelt beside her, checking for a pulse, her own hands trembling. Stay with me, okay? Vincent's footsteps thundered down the stairs. What happened? She just collapsed, Tiana said quickly. Call 911. For a moment, he froze, like the world had stopped spinning. Then he snapped into action, pulling his phone from his pocket. As he spoke to the dispatcher, Tiana kept her voice calm for Eleanor's sake, but inside she was terrified. Within minutes, the paramedics arrived. Vincent insisted on riding in the ambulance, his hand gripping his mother's so tightly his knuckles turned white. Tiana followed in her own car, her mind replaying every laugh, every quiet conversation she'd had with Eleanor in the past weeks. At the hospital, they were ushered into a waiting room. Vincent sat hunched forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. She's strong, Tiana said gently, sitting beside him. She's fought this long for a reason. His voice cracked. I can't lose her. She's all I have. Tiana hesitated, then put a hand on his arm. That's not true. You've kept everyone at a distance for so long, you don't even see who's here for you. But you're not alone anymore, Vincent. Not unless you choose to be. He didn't look at her right away. When he did, his eyes were red, not just from exhaustion, but from the walls inside him finally starting to crumble. After what felt like hours, a doctor came in. Eleanor was stable but weak, she'd need constant care at home, more than before. Back at the townhouse, Vincent surprised her. He asked Tiana to stay, not just for his mother, but for him. I can't promise I'll be easy to deal with, he said quietly. But I can promise I'll try. Anne. I want you to know I'm grateful. For not giving up on me. Tiana smiled faintly. I wasn't here to change you, Vincent. I just stayed long enough for you to change yourself. From then on, things were different. He still had his rough edges, but the sharpness was gone. At the bistro, people started whispering about how the rude millionaire had softened, though no one could figure out why. Only Tiana knew the truth. She'd weathered his storm, not by fighting it, but by standing in it until the clouds broke. And in doing so, she'd given him something no amount of money could buy, the reminder that people can stay, if you let them. Months later, as she sat at Eleanor's side, reading aloud from her favorite mystery novel, Vincent appeared in the doorway. Tea? He asked, holding 2 mugs. Tiana took one, meeting his gaze. Thank you. Eleanor smiled at both of them, her eyes twinkling. I told you, son. Sometimes it just takes the right person to stick around. And for once, Vincent didn't argue. Because she had stayed, and it had changed everything. This wraps the full emotional arc, from Vincent's hostile exterior, to Tiana breaking through, to the crisis that finally shows his heart, ending with a lasting, inspiring change.